feedback. Let us know if you are seeing the words coming out of my mouth at the same time that I'm saying them, or if there's a lag, and we will know if we've got the problem fixed. If worse comes to worse, I suppose I can just hold things up in front of my face, but it might make it a little difficult for bidding. So let us know if this seems like it's in sync, and if it is, then we will be happily on the road to getting started here. I have been taking some time off, but I've also been doing some sourcing and doing some organizing, and that's why I ended up with a bunch of stuff for tonight. And I'm excited to show you. There's a few pretty cool things in this batch. There's one item I'm starting at $10 that sold recently on eBay for $45. So I suspect somebody will come up with some deals out of this. And that makes me happy because I am very blessed with lots of merchandise and lots of things coming my way, and I'm always happy to share the wealth. Let me know if that seems like it is connecting. A little lag, very slight lag. Okay. And did you, Alice, I'm sorry, I didn't see the message that you sent just before the break. So if you would like to send that again, we got a little bit kerfuffled on this end, I guess I would say. So the lag is slight now, does remind me of Max Headroom. Yeah, there's
Okay. Well, we're gonna just roll with it and hope for better luck next time.
Yes.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, I'll hold the stuff up in front of my face, and we will try to give just an extra moment at the end of the bidding process for those of you who are interested in purchasing things, so that you'll have a second to make sure that we've got everybody accounted for there. So, with no further ado, we are going to go ahead. Let's see. Alice, still a little lag. Okay. Do I ship to Canada? That's a very good question, and yes, I do. I actually am willing to ship just about anything, just about anywhere, and Canada is no problem. We occasionally have a little trouble with eBay and their settings for international shipping, but we should be able to take care of that. So, all right. The first item's up for bid. This is going to be a choice, and I'm going to do some of these like this where I'm going to show more than one item, and you are bidding on your choice of whichever one you want. The high bidder will have the option of taking one or all of the items in question. There might be 2 or 3, and then if the high bidder does not want both of them, then if the next highest bidder wants it at the high bid price, then they can have it. So here's an example of that. These are 2 dresser jars. We'll put them up where hopefully you'll get a good look. There's the top of the one in my left hand. These are porcelain, and they're from 2 completely different parts of the world, from the same era but with a different story. The one in my left hand, which is this one with 3 feet, you're going to see it on the right of your screen, is hand-painted, and it is by the Co. company. I'm going to set the other one down for a second here. This is United Ceramics and Glass Company, and they had been around for a long, long time. They were not one of the new ones that started up after the Second World War because they saw the chance to bring in Japanese imports. They'd actually been around for many decades before, but they realized after the war that they could only be price competitive if they sourced in Japan. And so that's what they did. And there was a fellow named S.A. Stolaroff, who was their fellow who went from New Orleans, where they were headquartered, to Japan. He factored all the things, but he also instructed them on the designs, and that's where these tri-footed pieces like the cracked eggs and some of that stuff that people collect now, that's where this concept came from. It was his brainchild. And so this piece is hand painted, so all of this was handwork. All the gold was applied by hand, all of the flowers were applied by hand. And we are starting these at $7 each, your choice. Now the other one, I'm going to hold up, and I'll put this one down. This one, same era, which is right around late 50s or 1960. But this one, when you turn it over, has a Limoges mark on it. S.A. Limoges, and you'll see that in the shield here. And Limoges, of course, is the area of France most famed for porcelain work. Now this one is a transferware piece. I'm going to turn that over so you can see it again. And they're both very pretty in their own way. The quarters were something that was very popular with French design. And this particular one, and I see you, Lynn, at $9, that's great. This particular one has a lovely pair of quarters sitting on the bench. Notice the difference between this is transferware. Now the lid on the other one, the tri-footed one, is hand painted. So that is your difference there. Neither of these have any chips or cracks or breaks. Actually, only one item that I have up for bid tonight is as is in any way, and I will show you that and make it very plain. And I see Carrie is at $10, and this is for choice, so whoever wins this gets one or the other. Lynn is out at 11. So it's your choice of the tri-footed dresser jar with the hand-painted flowers, or the Limoges porcelain jar with the transferware. And these are shipping from Kentucky. If you do end up being the high bidder, please just send me an email. Oh, I see Carrie's at 15, so she's serious about these. These are pretty pieces. I don't blame you. And Lynn is at 16, so I don't blame you. These are nice pieces for the price. Boudoir items really are doing well. I've always carried these. When I first got started in the business, people didn't necessarily have that much regard for them, but I've noticed as time has gone on that people really do enjoy nice things on the dresser. And they're handy for various things. You can put your pins in them, your keys in them. I've even seen people use these little footed ones for sauces on a table. So they're not strictly limited, and because it is just white painted porcelain inside, which I'll show you, or I'm sorry, I said painted, it's not painted at all. The point is, it's not painted inside, so you could put food in these and they're not going to hurt you. It's not like the new Chinese stuff where it says right on it, don't use this for food, which makes you wonder what the heck are they putting in that stuff. So there's the interior. The Limoges one is a little finer. It's a little thinner. It's probably a little better quality than the Japanese one in terms of the base material. But that doesn't seem really to faze collectors these days. People seem to just like what they like, and they're more concerned about things being attractive and useful and hopefully in good condition. I am a real stickler for condition for the most part, I have to say, especially where porcelain and glass are concerned, because, you know, you really want something that doesn't have chips and cracks in it. So there's the one and then the other. Let me move those apart so you can see them a little better. And Carrie is at 20, and I think that we are going to wind down the offers here. So, 22 from Lynn. Well, we'll give a chance for a response there since we've got a couple of people who like these. And like I say, whoever wins this is going to have first choice, and if they take one and not the other, then the next high bidder will have a choice to purchase the item at the high bid price. So we're at 22, and if there's any more interest, please speak now or forever hold your peace on these, because we're getting close to ringing that bell. And then we'll go back to a little music. We're going to try to have some music breaks so that folks who are here for the music get more of that, and people who are here for the sale get more of that. So I think we're just about there, and that is our final bell. So Lynn, if you'll tell us in the chat which one of these, or both, if you want both, that you would like, then Carrie, you will have an option if she doesn't take both of taking the one that she does not have. If I don't talk at all, there's no lag at all. So let's see where we are with that. Okay, let's see, Carrie. I'm a little behind on the chat. Here we go. The 3-footed one. Okay, so Lynn is getting the 3-footed one. The tri-footed is yours for $22, and thank you very much. I think it's a very pretty piece. So this one is going to Lynn. And so the Limoges is still available to carry if you are interested in it at 20. You may have it for 20. So Carrie gets the Limoges, and very good. Well, thank you very much. We're going to do some more that are...
I put that up there.
Oh, she put it up
say
there.
That she would have it for
Oh,
20.
I see.
I'm waiting to hear from Carrie if she
Okay.
actually wants it for 20.
Okay, very good. Well, if the Limoges one was of interest to you, Carrie, let us know. And with that, I think we'll go on with the music. And Carrie, you can let us know in the chat. So I think that means Okay, so yes, we're getting some good Motown tunes, and I really do enjoy the Motown and the R&B, and it's a little pre-max headroom, but it's working for me. Alice, by the way, I noticed that you said that the band that you were in, one of your programs, sold for $30 online. Tell me a little more about that band. I was in a band too. Our stuff is not selling online, believe me. There's no demand for it. Anyhow, our next bid item, I'm actually wearing one of them, and I realize that's not working because you can't see it in the shot. So I'm going to have to take it off and show you this way. This is going to be choice again, and these are vintage costume jewelry. These are 1960s and early 70s pieces. The one on your left, which is my right hand, the necklace, which I'll stop swinging so you can actually see how it looks in focus. This is Sarah Coventry, and Sarah Coventry was advertised on To Tell the Truth. Kitty Carlisle would always talk about the Sarah Coventry jewelry. She'd been a New York socialite, so that was kind of funny, because Sarah Coventry was well-made costume jewelry that was sold at home parties, and I can't imagine that she was going to many home parties where Sarah Coventry was sold, but it does have the little triangle mark right on it up here at the clasp that says Sarah Cov, C-O-V. And their stuff is actually, some of it really well designed. I thought this was nice, and since it's Sunday, it seemed appropriate to have a cross. Now, the one in my other hand, the fish, is a pin. I'm going to set the cross down for a minute. But this is a certain type of pin, because if you notice on the back that it seems like it wants to open, and well, lo and behold, it does open. If I can figure out the way, there we go. The whole back opens on it because originally these were made to put in solid perfume. Solid perfume pins and necklaces were a big deal in the 1960s and 70s. Another thing that was sold door to door, but it was of interest because people could dab a little bit on. What happened when it was done was you were supposed to put a keepsake or a memento or a picture like a locket in it. So it turns into a locket pin. And so it's a cute little guy swimming along there. Also American made. These are available for $5 choice. So if you like vintage costume jewelry, it's rather inexpensive for what they are. There we go. The focus went on the pieces. That's nice. And Sarah Coventry had a lot of different designers who worked for them. There wasn't one. It wasn't like Trifari, where they hired one designer who did all their work for 30 years. They actually did a lot of contract designing, where they'd hire somebody who'd do a line or two for them. And so that made it a little different as well. Anyhow, these are $5 each starting. They're both from about 1970. I don't really tend to sell jewelry of a newer vintage than that unless I'm clearing an estate sale. So I try to stick to the older brands because that's just where the interest amongst my collectors are. And Auntie Christie is in at $5. Her choice on either one of these. Again, this is choice, so the high bid gets to choose whichever one they want, and if there's a backup bidder, then if the high bidder doesn't choose both pieces, then the backup bidder gets whatever is left if they choose. So I do think that these are kind of cute and fun. They're just easy wearable stuff. We're getting close to the end of summer. Summer isn't really so much of a jewelry time because people are out running around, but then we get into fall and all of a sudden people are thinking about dressing up, colder weather depending where you are, and a lot of times you see these around your you'll see people wearing these over sweaters. Here's the back so you can see the way it's finished. It's interesting to me that even though these are glass stones, that they set them like semi-precious stones where they could actually breathe in the back. And then the fish has a nice little rhinestone eye in the blue there. And it looks to me like Auntie Christie is our viewer who's interested in these, so if there's no one else out there, we're going to go ahead and ring that bell and let her have her choice of either or both of these. Oh, Trina is in at $6. Okay, well, we've got something going on here, so we're going to let you two have a moment more. $7 from Auntie Christie. Now, there's always the question of, is a signed piece of costume jewelry better than an unsigned piece? And I suppose the answer is yes, depending. It really has more to do with the design, and the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so it's really more a question of your personal taste. Some people like objects rather than designs that are more geometric, and other people prefer things that are more geometry. A director wanted to film Tommy knockers in our family home. That would have been interesting, though, to have a movie done. I've never actually been someplace where they filmed a movie, but I've been involved with several antique malls where we rented things out to people who were producing a movie nearby. There's a Disney movie, and I wish I could remember which one it was, but they needed a tin bathtub for a cowboy to take a bath in, and we just happened to have a tin bathtub for sale, and we worked out a deal where we rented it they got it for 1 week for 20% of the tag price, and so the dealer made extra money, and they were happy because they didn't have to buy it and drag it all the way back to Hollywood when they were done. If you ever go on the Universal tour, by the way, in Orlando, you get to see their whole props department, which is neat. So we're at $11, and Trina, it is your choice for $11. If you will let us know which one of these is the one you want, or if you want both, you may have both. If you just want one of them, then Auntie Christy will be the backup on the other one if she chooses. So let us know in the chat, Trina, which one you want, and then Auntie Christy, if you'll follow that along, let us know if you are interested in the other piece, and that one will be yours. I know the choice thing is a little different, and not many people are doing that on live sales, but I just think it's an efficient way because we want to play music for everybody else. To be able to let you look at more than one thing at a time. So let us know which one is for which of you, and we will take it from there. And okay, the fish is going to Trina. And yes, that is a very sweet little fish. And it'll be sweeter if you can see it. Put it in front of my face. Let's try that. There we go. So that is the fish. And Auntie Christy will pass on the cross, so everyone liked the fish. I understand. Well, Trina, we will send you the fish, and thank you very much. And let's get back to some Motown. up, and this is going to be a choice again, and it's going to start at $5 choice. These are not old things per se, but they are about old things, and I thought they were just interesting enough that I thought they'd make a nice read for someone. It might be fun to share with grandkids, or just informational, really, because they are by an outfit called Days Gone By, which is a publication. But Days Gone By, let me try to get the glare off these. Oh, I'll have to pull them back a little too. They're kind of big. Let's see, how can I do this? Alright, I'm going to learn eventually how to hold things in front of the camera. Thank you for being patient with me. So one of them is The Old Country Schoolhouse, and the other is Mother's Favorite Verses. I'm going to do these one at a time because this is a little clumsy for me. Okay. So the first one is Days Gone By remembers the old country schoolhouse, and this one has illustrations on it, but on the back it says, "What is it about the little country schoolhouse that so endears it to us? Was it a favorite teacher, favorite games with special friends? Travel with us to a time when education was a lot more than the 3 R's." And the collection really has a lot to do with all sorts of various things, and since we're getting close to back to school, or in school in some cases. So, of course, the first one I turn to is about a truant officer. That's pretty funny. My grandfather was a truant officer. Nowadays they call them guidance counselors. It's a much nicer, gentler way of saying we need to figure out what's going on with you so you'll stay in school, but it's essentially the same deal. And so there's that. Lots of illustrations. There's another one here that is talking about school in a small town in Carroll County and what it was like to teach. There's the teacher with his students. You notice they taught all sorts of different ages all at once. A lot of the little local schools, you'd have anyone from kindergarten to high school, if they had high school. When education became compulsory, in a lot of places, 8th grade might be the highest that you would get to go to. There are parts of California where you can actually opt out of school after 8th grade, believe it or not, in the more rural areas in the northern part of the state. Here's making popcorn. It's just fun. It's a cute thing to see how things were back then. And then the other one is Mother's Favorite Verses. So it's going to be the choice of either of these. And Mother's Favorite Verses talks about, remember when you were snuggled safe in her lap as she read a poem or sang a song. And you've got the kids on the back around the piano. And this one was kind of interesting because it has all sorts of old verses that we've maybe heard snippets of or heard elders talk about, and it goes through the whole detail of them. Lips that touch liquor must never touch mine. That was from the Prohibition era. There's one, May I sleep in your barn tonight. That's from a tramp going around trying to find a place to go. The Wreck of the Old 97 is a very famous tune about poem about railroading. And then you have sweet things like bedtime lullabies. Let's see if there's anything. Mother Night has drawn her curtain, called her wee ones all to rest. Small feet pattering, small tongues chattering, seeking each its snowy nest. And on from there. So, just sweet things. If anyone is interested in these, it's your choice, and $5 each is the bid. If there's anybody interested, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to other things. Okay. Well, we will go on to some other stuff, and we've got some more actual antique things coming up next. Well, the next thing I wanted to show you is this, and I am very partial. When I first started collecting, when I first got into the antique business, I discovered that I really loved glass. And the very first day I worked, somebody asked me if there was blue Caprice, and I thought that was a Chevrolet, and they laughed. And they showed me that no, in fact, Caprice is a pattern of glass. This is it here, by the Cambridge Glass Company out of Ohio, and it has this shell pattern. This particular piece is an ice bucket. Now, when I first got into the business, these were pretty expensive. They were somewhere in the $35 to $45 range each. And they're still selling for about $35 to $45 with shipping online. This particular one, you notice it's got the texture in here. This is what they refer to as the alpine finish, as opposed to the regular plain. And it is an ice tub. Yes, that's right. It's an ice bucket or an ice tub. And so you would put your ice in here and then carry it out to the patio or wherever you were serving. And if you look at the bottom here, this one does not have the Cambridge mark on it. Of course, you wouldn't be able to see it because my face is magnifying strangely through the bottom of the glass. But Cambridge sometimes is marked with a little triangle with a C in it on the bottom. This does not have that. Now, when I tip it over here, it's catching a little bit of a lavender. That's from my shirt. This has not actually turned in the sun. Some people like sun-turned glass, but the people who collect depression glass patterns tend to shy away from that. And now this would turn purple in the sun because the better makers like Cambridge used manganese in the batch, and that would actually turn purple. Later on, after the Second World War, that chemical was taken out of glass, and then glass turns a sort of unpleasant yellowish shade in the sun, and people don't really like that. But some people like the sun glass, and some people don't. I just thought this was a very pretty piece. I think it would cost about $10 to ship. I like the hammered handle here. One of the glass books I have has the ones with a lid, a bucket, but the ones listed without it as a tub. I think that's actually true. I believe the handle is... I have seen tubs with handles, though, I have to say, with the lid. I definitely have seen that, although not necessarily in depression glass, more in other materials like teak or plastic. Georges Briard did a lot of this sort of thing. But of course, this was a big deal in the Depression because Prohibition had just been lifted and all the glass companies were trying desperately to stay in business. So the first thing they did was make a whole lot of barware. So this would have come out sometime in the early to mid 1930s. And I just think it's a really neat piece. If anyone out there feels the same way, it can be had for $10 because it doesn't have any bids on it. So you are welcome to have it. Actually, at this price, it would potentially be a moneymaker for a reseller, if there's any resellers in the crowd. Otherwise, we will carry on and go back to music and bring you more stuff soon. So I think, as much as I like it, it's going to stay with me. And that's not necessarily the worst thing. It's pretty hot here. I could use some ice and a drink. Okay, I was almost a little asleep at the switch there, so I'm ready with the next item. In the last live sale, I had I had one other piece by this. This is the Circle of Friends line by Homeco, and this is something that was done, I believe, in the 1980s, late 80s. And the one that sold last time was the Resurrection. This one is Noah's Ark. They all tended to have a religious theme. They were made just after, okay, yes, 1995. So they were literally made right when NAFTA was done, because they are made in Mexico. You can see the tag there. But they're very cute. The colors are surprisingly current. I don't imagine that the person who buys this necessarily cares about modern decorating trends, but for the rest of you folks, if you're trying to figure out color schemes, I just read something online that was showing everything pastel. Every color you could think of, there was a pastel equivalent, and so it seems like we're going to see a lot of pastels in home decorating again. So I thought this would be cute, and since someone liked the other one, I thought I'd give them a chance for the last one that I have, which is this. They were done as part of the Masterpiece series, and they did a lot of these. I think they did 40 or 50 different varieties of these. And they're very cute. The children are rather apostolic with the bonnets and everything. I think they're actually supposed to be more like old country kids and all of that. So this is at $5. Someone was asking forms of payment because they didn't have certain types of Cash Apps, or they didn't know what Cash App was. You know, there's lots of ways we can do this. Generally, I just invoice through PayPal is the easiest, but if you don't have that, which I know some people don't, we can generally find another way, because I do Venmo and I've got Square and all that kind of good stuff. So this one is $5. I believe the other one, which was similar in weight, cost about $8 to ship to the gal. So not terribly expensive compared to what they sell for online. So if there is interest in this particular piece, I'm going to go ahead and turn it up where you can kind of see the whole thing. Hi, Paula. Well, that's great. I'm glad you like this. I think it's very sweet as well. And the kids are building Noah's Ark in this case. I'm going to turn it around so you can see the back. It's nice because it's three-dimensional. You know, some things they kind of cheat on the back side of something because they figure you're not going to look at it. I've actually picked up Japanese figures and even Italian figures in porcelain from the 1950s and 60s where the back isn't even painted or glazed at all. It was like they just figured, oh, you're never going to look at that, which is kind of cheap. So I thought that this was actually better made. Certainly better made than the treasure craft that they were making in this time. Child labor. Well, I think they're doing it for fun, right? So Paula, it looks like this is going to be yours unless someone else jumps in, because we're getting close to ringing that bell. If anyone else has interest, this is your chance. Otherwise, we will ring the bell and this will go to Paula and we'll go on with more music. Okay, well, congratulations, Paula. I think it's a very sweet piece and I think you'll enjoy it. And if you'll send, any of you, like you see below, if you'll send the information to the Antique Nomad at Gmail, then I'll send an invoice. Well, I saw in the chat where people were talking about their 1970s clothes and what they wish they had kept, and I am right there with you, Alice. My late 70s and early 80s concert t-shirts are selling for enormous prices now, and I held on to them and held on to them, and finally, right before they became popular, decided no one is seeming to want these. So, well, we all learn. Speaking of the 70s, this is the next offering. I think I'm gonna, let's put it to the other side so you can see it better. All right, we'll try it in the middle. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Let me put something behind it, maybe. I think we can do it like this.
It's fine if you just keep it in the middle.
It is? Okay. I just wasn't sure if people could see it well. There we go. Because it really has nice color to it. And this is from the early 70s when Curtis Juret became famous for all of those metal wall sculptures. After they stopped making the Renoir and Matisse jewelry, they got into metal wall sculptures, and all of a sudden a lot of other makers, little studios, other metal workers around the country started doing things like this as well. This one is unsigned, but I think it's very sweet. I like the arbor and the trees. They're in some sort of a park-like setting. It is nice because they've given it a lot of color. This is copper with brass, and there's a little bit of a patina to it, and different color that is put on. I'm going to take this down now. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. And I just thought that the design was neat. It has this sort of interesting combination of naturalism and brutalism all at the same time. It is starting at $7. I like that they're sitting there reading a book. It just has motion to it. I just thought it was rather appealing. And for somebody who does brutalist decor or likes mid-century modern, it seems to me that this is, again, something that might be a good thing for a reseller to pick up on, although I see we've got just a little bit of dust. Let's get that off of there. This came out of an estate and has been sitting in my inventory, and I have not actually dusted, so. But it's got nice fall leaves. We are coming up on fall. I thought it had a nice look to it. There is one thing I should show for full disclosure, and that is that looking at it from the top here, you see the colors in the base. This one wire, the solder point, has come loose. It doesn't seem to affect the structure or anything about it. It's just a neat little sculptural piece, and I could see where it could work into a modernist decor or somebody who really likes fall with the trees and all of that. And a lot of work went into these. All of these had to be soldered on, each individual point. So somebody had to do 30 or 40 different little solder points. And I see Carrie is interested in this at $10. Thank you, Carrie. I think it's a nice piece, and I think that it would be fun to display. And I'm going to see if I can show you the underside again one more time, because you get the full range of color that they used. They would use copper and brass sheeting and wire and then put these together, and then sometimes they would do a little bit of extra painting or patina in order to give it all of that different color. And you can see it from the top down, because if you're looking down on it, there you go. The tree actually goes outside of the boundaries of the piece, which is nice too. So you have this sort of formal structural rigidity and then this natural element that breaks that. So there's something almost Japanese about that aspect of the style, which I find interesting because these were made in the United States primarily. I'm not aware of these having been made offshore at all. And let's see if we can lift it up where you can see the figure on the bottom. So it looks like Carrie is the person who is enjoying this piece the most besides me, and I think it's going to belong to her unless someone else jumps in. Well, there's the bell. So Carrie, thank you very much. Send your information and we will get you an invoice for that and get it sent out. Alrighty, well, we're back, and I have a piece that is really neat looking. Let's not put the price up yet, because I want to describe the condition fully before you bid, because it's going to start at a very low price. It's a wonderful little Lucite box purse with all sorts of rhinestone studs. It is original from the 50s. The clasp works fine, which is a great thing because they don't always do that. The interior is in wonderful condition. It's absolutely usable. I loved it when I bought it. The reason it's starting at a very low price, however, is that Delta Airlines did a little bit of damage to the back. Now, usually these are displayed sitting flat, and oftentimes people are just using them on a dresser. I think we can put the price up now that they've seen that. But it does have that big crack that would have to be sealed. This one was made in New York. It is, that says London, New York, Paris. Eileen made in USA, but this is one of the New York makers of Lucite purses. Lucite purses became a big deal in the mid-50s. It was the plastic fantastic era after all. And so these were originally done in New York, but then people took them down to Florida. This is around 1955, and they really caught on there, and a bunch of makers started producing them in Miami as well. So these are big sellers now. If this was perfect, and it was when I bought it, I would have expected that this might have sold for $100 because it's a different style. It's got lots of nice sparkle to it with all the rhinestones, and it's just a great design. So I thought for somebody who just wanted a piece to sit on a dresser and wasn't taking it out and using it, or if you are using it, I guess you wouldn't have to worry about it getting more damaged. You could just fill and maybe glue in there. I'm leaving it the way it is, but it does have this damage on it. So if anyone would like to give it a nice new home, again, it opens like this. The interior is very clean, which is nice on these. And it's got a nice lining too, which is helpful, and it's not terribly big, so your stuff's not going to rattle around in it. Some of the bigger purses, they look really great, but then when you actually go to use them, and I know people who do use these, a lot of my young hip fashionista collectors like to use these, and you hear all of their stuff rattling around as they walk down the aisles of the antique shows. So
This one is going to be more of a display, right? If you show how it would be sitting flat.
oh, I see. Yes. Okay, that would be
open.
good. Right. So if you were going to display it, for example, on a dresser and use it maybe for your jewelry or that sort of thing, it's going to be open like that. And there's how it's going to look with the lid. So it's a cute piece that could use a new home. If anyone out there would like to give it one, please put in your bid at $5. Otherwise, we will move on to other things. Everything else I have is in perfect condition, but I just thought this was too nice to not go to somebody who might value it the way it is. And there's that back so you can see the actual condition. It does look like it's sat for a long time because it does have normal wear. It is more of a clutch, absolutely. Yeah, clutch bags like this were because it didn't have a handle. It never did have a handle. Sometimes they have little loops where you could put them there. I hate it when the airline leaves a mark. Well, yes, I do too. And my advice to those of you who are shipping things through is learn from my mistake. I thought because this was non-breakable and it was in the checked baggage wrapped in clothing that it would be fine, but they dropped something right on the checked baggage, so that was the end of that. Have I seen the documentary on the villages in Florida? I have not, and I would be curious about that. I do a show in Mount Dora, Florida 3 times a year, and I drive through the villages on the way home, and the village, oh good Sarah, I'm glad that you appreciate this. I think it would be lovely to have in someone's collection. The villages are just this vast sprawling retirement city, really, and they just go on and on and on. I keep thinking that that must be a great place to go to estate sales, because even though the places are relatively new and the villages are, you know, a lot of 55 and over, it's like an entire city of 55 and over, They do save a lot of their best stuff when they move to Florida. And they might not have an attic or a basement full of all the old stuff, but they pick their very best stuff to take with them.
What does that say on the label?
The label is Eileen, London, New York, Paris, but it says made in USA. These were made in the United States. We only see, and where's the damage again? Let me show you. The only damage there is, it's severe, but it's all in one place, and because of the liner, it wouldn't affect using it, but there's the damage. It's got a crack here. They basically dropped something on top of the suitcase straight down that cracked it. So it does have probably a 3 or 4 inch crack that runs to about here. It could be sealed perhaps with fingernail polish or some sort of a filler if you wanted. So Sarah is in at 5, and we've had a few questions about it, but I am going to let it go here in just a moment. So if anyone else is interested, now's your chance. Otherwise, we're going to ring that bell and we will move on to other things. But I'm glad that it's going to get a new home, because it is still a very pretty piece and it deserves it, and it's going to be yours, Sarah. And we'll have some books coming up. Well, we've got one other thing, and then some books coming up that someone had asked about earlier. Okay, well, the music got softer, so I think it's time for me to get ready to do something here. I'm getting lulled into it as well. It's fun coming later at night, though. I get to chat with you a little bit. I'm enjoying this format a lot. This is going to be a choice. I had a couple of these in the last sale, and I have a couple more, so I thought it would be fun. We're going to start these at $5 each. These are eggs. The one on your left, let me get it where it will focus. There we go. The one, okay, now on top. The one on top is jadeite, and it's jadeite glass. Now this is 1980s, late 80s, early 90s, because these are Franklin mint. The one on the bottom is actually one of the first ones they did because it is Japanese made. They went to other countries after that. Japan was still a big maker of ceramics, and to the 1980s era, they have little stands, and I'm gonna put the stand down so I can show you the design on this a little better. This one has a very nice scene of people frolicking in front of a castle. And in the black, it actually reminds me a little bit of the Russian lacquerware and some of those other things, especially because it has the Firebird on it. So I think that this is derivative of Russian fairy tale boxes and that sort of thing, which were popular at the time. And the Japanese were doing other porcelains of like plates and things at the same time in these designs. So this is based on that. There we go. I think I've got it where the glare isn't quite so noticeable on it. But it's not easy to fire all of these colors together, particularly red and black in porcelain are difficult to fire at the same time. Red adheres at a very low firing temperature, black takes a very high firing temperature, and it's easy to burn the red in the process of trying to make the black adhere, because they have to cook this stuff. Porcelain especially has to be cooked at, I think, about 1800 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, so it is a process. And then the other one, and this is choice, so whoever bids on these will get their choice of one or the other. This is a very heavy solid glass in the jadeite with texturing. And the texturing is just sort of abstract, I guess you could say florals, but with more of maybe almost a starburst or pinwheel design of a sense. I just thought these were very pretty, and they are well done, and these were done by Franklin Mint. I mentioned on the last episode of this that these play a role in the movie Serial Mom, because they're at a swap meet at one point where she commits a murder, and her friend, who she's doing the swap meet with, goes off to look for Franklin eggs, and she goes off and murders her daughter's ex-boyfriend because he has jilted her, and she just really wants to protect her family. It's a very funny and, well, I love comedy, and it's sort of a dark comedy, but I like that one. So, $5 each, your choice. If anyone is interested in these, let us know now. Jadeite glass, of course, is something that originally came out in the, well, you see it all the way back to the Victorian period, but it was more of a clam broth. It does not glow under a black light. It does not have uranium in it. I have never seen a piece of jadeite green that glowed under a black light. The black light, the uranium was used to make sort of yellow-green colors. That's why you see it in so much of the 1930s Depression glass. And it was also used in bright yellow glass all the way back into the Victorian era. They tended to call it Vaseline in the old days, but the Victorians didn't call it that because Vaseline hadn't been invented yet. Ah, very good. And so $6 is the current bid on these. And this is choice, so you get one or both. Marty is in at $7. And it will be your choice which one you get. And if you take one, then the backup bidder will get the other one if they want it. It's interesting with choice because you don't necessarily know which one the other person is bidding on, so you just have to take your chances. But hopefully, and oftentimes it's true, everyone ends up being happy. We're at $8 now. Now, the reason that I'm doing some of these as choice is this is how it works in real auctions. I just went to a country auction last night. There were a bunch of electric fans. Paula's in at $9. Now the electric fans, they were all priced. I'm having the hardest time figuring out how to do this so that it will focus. There we go. The Marty is in at $10. The auction last night, there were a bunch of electric fans. One of them had a tag saying that it worked, and the other ones were as is. And so I bid $9, and they said it was my choice, and I said I'll take the one that works. And then the backup bidder ended up getting the other two that didn't work for $6 each. But he's a guy I recognize who knows how to fix things, so we both were very happy in the end. Marty is in at $13 on these. They really are well made, I have to say. The hand painting is very good on the glaze painting is very good on the one that I'm turning. And then this one is just so solid. It's such a heavy piece of glass for being so small. Because it's small, it'll still ship for a cheap price, but it's very substantial and well made. So I have to say, I am more impressed with these in person than I was seeing them at a distance.
What exactly is that design on the green one?
I wish I could describe what it is. It's textured all over, and it seems that this one is a flower, but this one is a concentric ring of rays in a circle, and then in between seem to be textured floral patterns. Like I say, the black one is supposed to be stylistically from Russian origin, even though it was made in Japan, and the green one I think is just supposed to be a fun, abstract, sort of modern floral. These were made just about the time that Martha Stewart started making her jadeite glass. She was collecting the Fire King jadeite from the 50s, got a whole bunch of new people interested, and then decided that she would start bringing in pieces from, I think hers came from China, and they don't really have the same color. So I prefer the earlier ones, and I like this one because it is a good match for the Fire King color if that's your interest. Marty's at 13, and it's nice to see that you folks are enjoying these. And oh, there goes the bell. So Marty is our high bidder. Marty, if you'll tell us which one you want, then if the backup bidder, the next high bidder, is interested in the other, then they can have that one. And it does come with the little gold stand. I'll show you the little stands. I'm going to put these down because my arms are tired. It's late.
Paula 123 is the backup at
okay.
12.
Very good. These are the little stands that come with them. These were original to the pieces. So Marty, we'll just wait to hear from you which one you're interested in. And let's see here. I'm not sure which one's going to Marty.
Marty gets the choice, and Paula 123 gets the other one if she would like it.
Okay. So Marty, please let us know which one you're interested in so that we can give Paula the option of the other one. And I think we can probably do that in the chat if you like. We'll just have to wait to hear and then come back and we'll straighten out who's got who. Oh, hi there, we're back. All right, so the next one is going to be choice, and I wanted to put these up. I know someone asked about this before. They saw the thumbnail and asked about these before. I'm going to briefly hold up all three so that you can see that it's going to be the choice of these three books. Let me see if I can't manage to get them in the shot there. There we go. We have the Banner Boy Scouts Mystery, Donald Price's Victory, and 8 Cousins. Let me hold them up individually.
Hold on just a moment. Paula, we had you, for those eggs, Marty was the top bidder, and then we had you as the second, wanting the black and red one. And if there's we did just see a $15 bid from Willie Joe come in like way after the fact, so I don't know if there's a bit of a lag, but Paula, we did have you 12 getting the black and red, and Marty was getting the jadeite for 13.
Yes, and I'm sorry that there is a lag. So if you are interested in things, do put your bid in early. Don't wait till the end, because we do have a little bit of a latency issue with the feed tonight. So that could be in effect. Anyhow, our next item's up. I'm going to show you individually. The first one is 8 Cousins by Louisa M. Alcott, who of course is best known for Little Women and Little Men. This one is by Goldsmith Publishing. What I like about all of these is they all have their original dust jackets. These were done to appeal to children in the Depression era. And so the colorful dust jacket was a lot of what made it interesting. Now this one sat and spent some time, where the edge, of course, is a little bit yellowed from having sat in the bookshelf, and nothing got to the front, so it's slightly different on the spine. But actually, that's not a lot of variation. Sometimes you'll see the spine is completely faded, and you have to pull the book out to even see what it is. These were done. This one was done by Goldsmith Publishing. It says, "Merry Christmas to Marion" from Heidi Seal. I had a gal come in from Iowa once and said, "Why would anyone want all these old books in this antique mall? We had this when we were kids." And then she opened it up. She was from Iowa, and we were in Washington State, and it was her book with her name in it. So yes, this is choice of the books. Here are the contents, talking all about the 2 girls, the clan, the uncles, the aunts. Louisa May Alcott was definitely a very popular writer in her day, and her stories really have stood the test of time. The condition seems to be very good on the interior. There's not a lot of illustrations. That's why the dust jackets are really important with these. The next one of the choice is this one, the Banner Boy Scouts Mystery. Boy Scouting was so popular in the early 1900s, and this one is definitely along that series. A lot of different people did Boy Scout series. Here it shows 30 classics you can also buy from this same publisher. The dust jacket is in good condition. It's got a few little tears, a little fading on the edge. Oh, and a price tag that fell out. And this one is this is one of 4 different scouting ones. This one actually has a library stamp from May of 1945 on the inside. So that gives us an idea of the date, because I don't think this one actually has a publishing date in it. And that is often the case. Yeah, it really was her book. It was amazing. She came in with her sister, and her sister was a big collector of ours, and she just kept saying, oh, I don't understand why people want all this old stuff. Why would you want all this old stuff? This is the stuff we got rid of. Look at this book. We got rid of this when we were kids. Why would anyone want this now? And then she opened it up and her name was in it. Geneva, the publication date on this one is 1937. The Louisa May Alcott, I believe, is 1935. The third one that I'm going to show you, because it's the choice of your choice out of these, and thank you, Nancy. I see your bid in at $5, and I know you had asked about one of them. I won't say which one. This one, Donald Price's Victory. He's got you can see the old car with the wooden spokes, his old jalopy that he's driving. But this one, it says 1942 in the presentation that someone wrote in there. But this one does not actually have any date on it at all. A lot of times when you were making children's books, you were maybe a second or third line publisher, and so you didn't actually put the date in because you were not the original publisher doing the first edition, so they didn't actually require you to put a publishing date. So you kind of have to tell by the graphics and the way it's done. But this one also has it has a 1942 inscription, and then somebody printed December 6, 1945 on the inside. Now, I'm not sure what Donald Price's Victory is. It says when his father died, all that remained of his once sizable fortune was a tract of woodland on the shores of Moosehead Lake in Maine that was mortgaged. And so Donald decides to lumber the tract and give a second mortgage to secure money to finance the venture. And there's a lumber camp and a bunch of people running around and working. It looks like they end up having a big fight with somebody who's probably trying to ace them out of their property. I'm sure it's very exciting. This one I will show you. The binding is cracked on this one, and that could make a difference. Geneva Johnson is in at $7. So as far as condition goes, it's intact. It's a good reading copy, but it does have a crack in the spine, and I like to show that and also describe what a crack is, because you'll see that description if you go to abebooks.com, for example, and look at old antiquarian books. They'll talk about condition. So when a cracked spine is discussed, that's what it means. But these all do have the dust jackets. It is choice of these 3, and we're currently, well, hard to hold all 3, but we are currently at $7.
Currently at 7 with, let's see, this overstuffed house gets second choice if Geneva doesn't want all 3 of them.
That's right. So we're going to wind down here very shortly, but I'm going to give just a little bit of extra time because I know we've had a lag on the last couple of bids, and I want to make sure anybody who's interested has a chance to get in, but do speak now or forever hold your peace, because we're going to wind up real quickly here. And at $7, it looks like...
Okay, we do have a bid of 8.
Oh, we're a bid of 8. Okay, well, we're going to let it keep going and let everyone have their chance. And who is our current high bidder who gets their choice of any or all of the 3 books? It's Paula. So Paula, currently at $8, will have her first choice, and then if anything is left, we'll work down the line to Geneva and to Nancy, who are the 2 backup bidders, because we are definitely here to sell all of these. I think they're wonderful. They don't smell musty, they haven't been stored badly, and so they're in pretty reasonable condition for children's books of the 1930s, and just the graphics are just so much fun. So Paula is our top bid at this point, and we are getting very close to winding this up. If anyone else is interested, now's your chance, because that bell's going to ring, and when it does, oh, Nancy in at $9. Okay. Nancy is serious interest in these books. I've noticed Nancy in the past has always seemed to remark, I think she's something of a bibliophile, which I think is cool. I grew up with readers and was taught to read at a very early age, and I think it definitely helped me in life. I'm very glad that my parents and grandparents spent a lot of time reading to me and having me read back to them, because it's turned out that reading is fundamental. Okay, so Nancy is our high bid at $9. If anyone is up for going to 10, we will let them. Otherwise, we will close the bid momentarily. So currently we have Nancy in first position at 9, followed by Paula and Geneva. And I think we're close to ringing that bell. There we go. So that ends the bid. And Nancy, I think I know which one that you want, or at least I know which one you spoke of, was this one here. So let us know if you're interested in this one or the other two or all three, and then we will, in the chat, we will ask the follow-up bidders if they're interested in what's left. So let us know which one is for you, and then we'll work the rest of that out in the chat.
She said in the chat she only wants the Boy Scout one.
The Boy Scout one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, see, that just goes to show that I don't always know what is on people's minds. So this one is for Nancy.
So, Paula, that means you get the choice of the other two for 8 if you are interested.
Yes, and the other two again are 8 Cousins by Louisa May Alcott or Donald Price's Victory. So let us know if those are of interest to you, and if they are yours. If not, then Geneva will have the option. And we'll give just a minute. Thanks for being patient with us, folks, because this takes just a little bit of time to process through with the lag that we're experiencing. We just want to make sure that we get all this information right.
Okay, Paula wants 8 Cousins.
Okay, very good. So let me put that one down. And so the last one we have, if Geneva, if you are interested, let us know in the chat. It is Donald Price's Victory, and that is the last one that is available.
For
$7. And we will get back to a little bit of Motown. Okay, well, I am going to present another choice, and then we're going to have a lot of things that are just individual, maybe a little less confusing. These lovely ladies are going to be choice, and they are starting at $15. The one with the umbrella, or the parasol, I'm going to put the other one down for just a moment so that we can show this a little better. There we go, now she's coming in. This one is by Gorham. Gorham and the other one are going to turn out later in time to have a connection, but at the time this was made, Gorham was its own separate item, and this was Sunday Promenade. They did a whole bunch of these porcelain ladies in the late 1980s, and they have a very Victorian look with this gathered corseted figure, and all of the detail matches on both the dress. Let's see if I can pull it back so you can see it all together there. The umbrella and the dress have the same matching detail. And with, again, a lot of people liking to decorate in the boudoir and a lot of people interested in the color pink again, it seems like this is a good time for these to be coming back on the market. These are about 30, 35 years old at this point. This one is done by Gorham, Sunday Promenade. Now the other one, you'll notice, this is more of a bisque. Now this one is a little glossier. This one is by Lenox from about the same period of time. Lenox eventually bought Gorham Sterling. In fact, Lenox has pretty much consolidated most of the American makers of these sorts of products. This one is the Ivory Belle of the Ball, and they call her the Ivory one because I think she did come into some other colors as well. And she's very cute. She has her dance card in her hand in gold. Whoops, I've got to put it in front of my face so we get the focus. There we go. And she, being the belle of the ball, has a giant hoop skirt. They're all hand painted. The flowers are hand applied. There was a lot of work that went into these. Whenever you do a mold where the pieces leave the body and then reattach at the body, that's a lot more difficult than if you just have arms by the sides or arms that stick out and don't have to reattach to another piece, because they basically have to make a mold that has a hole in it, and that means it has to be sculpted that way. It's a lot more difficult. So these are a little bit more special for that reason.
And what does it say on the bottom?
This one is the Ivory Belle of the Ball by Lenox China.
Okay.
And this one, which I have to hold with both hands because...
You may want to hold that a little bit longer for the camera to focus on the bottom.
Okay, I will do that, thanks. There we go. There's Sunday Promenade. And she is Gorham Fine Porcelain with the umbrella. The umbrella actually does turn. I don't know that you would necessarily want to do that a lot. I had a very large collection of these. I've sold a few on live shows before, and I thought it would be fun to present these because these are the last two I have that are not in my show stock or in a mall space. I think I sold 10 of these last month at $30 a piece in one of the malls.
What does that very small
The very
text
small
say?
tag is text saying that they were made offshore somewhere, because this is the era where Lenox starts to make things abroad. I believe this was made in Asia, and so it's got the country of origin. I think it's Malaysia on that piece. And then the other one, I believe, was also made and has that mark on the bottom as well. Let's see. So this one, well, actually, let me look because it's going to be awfully small to read. Yes, also made in Malaysia. Again, this is about the time that the American companies are starting to realize that the cost of producing some of these things with all of the handwork that went into them is just prohibitive to do in the United States. These, I believe, were in the $45 to $50 range when they were new. If they had made them here, sad but true, they would have probably had to charge double that. It does seem as time goes on that countries become more and more technical and sophisticated, and their products end up being more about that sort of thing as opposed to production. And yet there's a ton of work that goes into these. You can tell with all the hand painting and the trim and everything that there really is a lot of detail to these. Well, Sweet Dreams Southern Mermaid, and I love your little avatar there. She is fantastic. I want one of those. So Paula is interested in one or both at $15, and if anyone else is, this would be a great time to let us know, because we do have more things we want to show you, and we also want to play some more music, and we know it is starting to get late out there. We're enjoying doing these things later in the evening, though, because it's a chance for us to chat with other night owls like us, so this is good. So Paula, I think that you are going to have your choice of one or both of these. Unless someone else jumps in the very near future, we will ring the bell to let everyone know the bid is done. We'll give her one more spin. I have a feeling these two women would have considered each other to be rivals at a ball, don't you? The redhead and the blonde, I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
The redhead looks like she's getting ready to smack the other one.
Well, they can be nicely separated if they go into someone's collection together, so. Okay, well, Paula, thank you very much. Let us know which of the two, or both if you want both. They will be yours, and let's get back to the music. Well, we're back and going into the wee hours, and I'm having fun. I'm glad you are too. Thanks for sticking with us, those of you who are still awake. This is the next piece I wanted to show. I am a big fan of chintz, and this is the pattern called Royal Brocade. It was probably the most famous made thing done by Nelson Ware, which actually called itself Lord Nelson Ware as well. This is a late 50s, early 60s piece, so it's got the double stamp. Let me get it so you can read it. There we go. Now, when you see these multiple stamps, the round one is their 1950s mark. They then became part of some other company, and so you see BCW Nelson Ware made in England next to that. So it's a transition mark, and then the little R is the decorator mark. That was the person who actually laid the transfers on these pieces so that if something ended up not going well, if they got wrinkled, because they're basically decals that they put on this sort of item. That's what transferware is. The English figured out how to do that in the late 1700s. And so it was great because it meant everything didn't have to be painted meticulously by hand. And it meant that they could put a glaze over it and the pattern would be there indelibly, and it also meant that you weren't eating lead paint anymore. So that was an interesting thing. So this is at a current price of $7, and while you folks get a look at it, off topic, I was looking to go up north. Is it better in October or November? I think it depends where you're going, honestly. If you are going to the Northeast by November, you are looking at the possibility of snow in places like Maine and Vermont. And I know that you are from St. Petersburg, and I can only imagine what that would be like. Maybe it would be wonderful for you because it's a new experience, or maybe you would say, wow, it's really cold, why did I do this? So as far as shows and things, October is definitely the time. A lot of the shows, October is their last show up north. And by November, they're not having shows, particularly if it's outdoors, it's just too cold. And even a lot of the indoor shows seem like they're not doing things in November. I think some people think it's too close to the holidays, and they don't want to have to compete with that. So I would say if you're going antiquing, October is probably a perfect time, also because a lot of the northern dealers who go down to Florida in November and start doing shows are liquidating things that they don't want to take with them. So the prices drop at some of the shows and flea markets in October because it's kind of their last chance to make their nest egg for winter. So that would be my advice as far as that goes, if antiquing is the purpose of your trip. If it's sightseeing, well, October is a nice time too because you're still going to get some fall colors, and by November, a lot of that, the first storms come in and it blows the leaves off the trees. So anyway.
What does that say on the back again?
It's Lord Nelson Ware. This was a smaller company. They weren't as well known. Royal Winton was probably the English company the best known for chintz, but chintz is any all-over floral pattern. These were very popular in England in the 50s and 60s because they had only white, plain white during the war years. All of the chemicals that were used in paint were taken out of civilian production. And so you have, for example, Spode's Imperial Ware, where everything is molded and sculpted and it's all plain white. And after the war, they wanted color, and boy, did they get a lot of it. A whole lot of it. I also like the fact that this is square. A lot of people use these behind something else and to display, so I thought we'd put it up there. But if this isn't for anyone tonight, well, then I'll put it behind something at a show in a display. So
what is the name of the pattern?
The name of the pattern is Royal Brocade, and you'll see that in the middle. So Lord Nelson Ware is the company made in England, and then Royal Brocade is your pattern name. And that's typically how these things were marked.
What does the other stamp say?
The other stamp is just another company. It's the same company, but they merged into a larger consortium, and so it's RCW/Nelson Ware. So they would have had other branches beside Nelson Ware at that point. The English ceramics start to face a lot of international competition in the 1960s, and so you start to see consolidation at that point.
Yeah, interesting the choice of painting the blue flowers.
Yeah, I think it's very pretty the way it's done, and it just gives it some real dimension.
Any guess what those are?
I am not that great with flowers. You could probably tell me, though.
I'm going to say buttercups.
Okay, that makes sense. They have a yellowish cast to them. Obviously, they didn't paint the leaves green because they decided that 3 tones was enough. And so it looks to me like this has been fun to talk about more than to entice. So let's move on, and we'll do some other things very soon. All right, so we are getting into the home stretch. I've got a few more items to share with you though. And the next one here is something that you may all be familiar with, or you may not, so I thought I'd bring it out and show you. This is Fenton's Silver Crest. It was probably the most popular thing that they ever made. They made a lot of pieces in this line. This particular one, we're going to start at $7. It does not have the Fenton mark on the back. Now, Fenton did not start marking all of their pieces. They started marking some of them with the oval label in the mid-1960s. It wasn't until the mid-70s that they marked everything. And so this piece is going to be a 1950s or 60s piece with no marking on it at all. It's about 7 inches. I just always liked the scalloped look, and they were sold as bonbon dishes, but really just about anything you could imagine. I've seen people use them on the table because you can put a spoon in it and it'll hold in its place. And they're just sweet. It's a very good quality milk glass. And well, Paula, thank you. I see Paula's appreciating the quality of this, and I do think it's a very nice piece. It is currently at $10. I think in the marketplace these sell for about double that, so that's a pretty nice price. What else can I tell you about these? They made really elaborate services of this, and in the Silver Crest at least, and in some of the other colors, you could get entire dinnerware sets. They made dinner plates and all the serving pieces as well. I don't think they made anything with a lid because of the ruffled edge. They all have the ruffled edge, but they would actually have to go through and apply this clear edge separately over the white, and then take a crimping tool and crimp all of this while this was in its molten state. So this is about 13 or 1400 degrees, and they had this nice foot on it, partly because they had a piece that could hold it while they did the work, and they would go around and crimp all of it using a tool. Now, Fenton used a very uniform tool, so their crimping is generally pretty uniform. A lot of companies didn't do that, but Fenton was really big on quality, and so this was a piece that they really put extra time into, and they did make a lot of this type of thing in the day. Now, Silvercrest was so popular that it ended up being done in all sorts of other colors. So there are all sorts of Fenton crests. There's turquoise with a clear edge. There's aqua crest where it's white with an aqua edge. There's a ruby edged one that's hard to find. There's emerald green with a clear edge called emerald crest. So if you like this sort of thing, it comes in, gosh, about 10 different colors. Does it have Ring of Fire? Can you talk about that? This one does not have the Ring of Fire because this one is done in the 50s and 60s, and that's about the time that they changed the formulation of milk glass. There were chemicals in the older milk glass that would give it an opal fire, where if you looked through it, you would see like an opal glow. This one has more of a grayish cast. They took those colors that made, or those chemicals that made the opal fire out of them, because it turned out they were not really good for the workers in the plants to be breathing. And so there was a lot of industrial disease in the old days, and by the 50s and 60s, there's starting to be awareness of wanting to protect the workers a little more. So they reformulated it at that point, which was a good thing. Vaseline glass particularly, in the Victorian times, most people who were glass blowers, if they made Vaseline glass with the uranium salt in it and they were blowing it, they were breathing that uranium, and they unfortunately mostly died horrible deaths of cancer at a very young age. So we did learn over time that we really had to respect the people making this stuff and take their needs into account as well. So that's why this does not have the opal fire ring. But it is a very pretty piece, and it looks to me like it's going to be Paula's. If anyone else out there is interested, this is your time to let us know. Otherwise, we will send this to Paula. It came from an estate right down the road here in Kentucky. This was made in West Virginia, so we see a lot of it in this part of the country. But it was very popular. I had many pieces of this out in Washington over the years. It's a staple that I look for I always like to have a piece of silvercrest with me everywhere I go for shows and things because it is that popular, and this one is going to be Paula's. So thank you, Paula, and we'll listen to a little bit more music and then show you some more stuff. Well, we are officially burning the midnight oil in the time zone that I'm in now, so I guess we need something to burn it in. And here we go. This is a very, very famous old pattern, porcelain and earthenware called Moss Rose. And you'll see why. I'll hold it up a little closer so you can really see the pattern itself. because it has the rose, and then it also has moss in the display. And it is a pattern that came out, I believe, back as early as the 1840s or 50s, so it's one of the very first floral patterns in porcelain. This particular piece has a Made in Japan label on the bottom of it. So this is going to date back about 50 years. Now this causes confusion sometimes because, oh, and as an aside, yes, I agree with you, KS. The emerald crest is really beautiful and not very easy to find. Anyway, as far as this piece with the Made in Japan, I tell people oftentimes that Made in Japan marks are 1930s and that in the 50s they just say Japan. And that is true if it's an ink stamp. But in the 1960s, late 60s, early 70s and beyond, we start seeing these blue paper labels that say Made in Japan. At first they're rectangular and then they become oval. And those are 1970s and 80s wear. So this piece is going to be done in the late 60s or right around 1970. And it is a miniature oil lamp. And the wick does turn. I don't know if you can see the wick oh yeah, you can see the wick rising there. Good night, Sarah. It is, I don't think this has ever actually had oil in it. It's the original wick. You just simply unscrew the top from the base. And there you go. Yes, I do look funny with my head in the glass chimney. I kind of enjoy that. It's sort of one of those trick things. In my upcoming level 2 video, I get to look at you through a magnifying glass, and I think that'll be a fun effect. I haven't seen the footage yet. The handle is nice and ornate because these were based on pieces that were done in the late Victorian era, even though this one was done, gosh, 70 or 80 years after. And so they were trying to get that same look that they would have had in Victorian times, and I think they succeeded fairly well. It is lighter. If you were to find this without the paper label on it, you would not be fooled into thinking it was Victorian, because the Victorian pieces are very heavy and clunky. Earthenware was made a lot more heavily than by the time of the Japanese making this sort of thing. It had to be lightweight because they were exporting it all around the world. And you see a sort of fuzziness to the glass. That actually is the way that they made it, with some texture. And again, that gives it a nice old-fashioned look. A lot of people do collect miniature oil lamps. This one is starting at $7. So if anyone is interested in this, $7 is the starting price. And we just see a lot of oil lamps from this time that are kind of clunky and not very well done, not well decorated. So I thought this one was kind of a standout. And Lynn Fogel likes it. I do too. So Lynn, you are in at $7.
And those are rosebuds, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah, moss rose. It's a very specific style that gave it the moss rose name. It's like a little bouquet. And this pattern, I believe, was also made in continental Europe originally as well. So, and now I see it's the ticker. That's why you're telling me to raise this. Okay. I'm learning as we go, folks. I hope you're enjoying this, and I appreciate your patience with me, but we're getting somewhere on this. And because it's late, I'm not going to drag out the bids too long. I want everyone to get a chance to see. I've got probably another half dozen items that I'd like to share with you. So if anyone else is interested in this, let us know now, or else we're going to send it off to live with Lynn. And there's the full turn on it.
It's unused, correct?
It appears to be completely unused, even though it's 50 years old. It has never actually... It is the original wick, I can tell, because it has oxidation on the top. It's never been burned.
When you pulled it open, it appeared to be clean.
It's clean. It's never had oil in it. It's just like new. So... almost consider it new old stock, except it did sit on someone's shelf because I got it at an estate in this local area here in Kentucky. So I think it's going to be Lynn's. There's the bell. Thank you very much. And we will be back with a little bit more soon. Well, while we're on the subject of roses and roses that were made in Japan, I had a piece of this in my last live sale, and I mentioned that, gosh, I thought I had the pitcher and bowl, and it turns out I did. And this is Lefton's rose. Now, Lefton, this is all hand painted, I believe. Let me look a little closer while I say that. Yes. Yeah, this is hand painted. And this is right at a transition point for them too, because you can see it's got their old mark. This is starting at $10, by the way, and it is the bowl together with the pitcher. It doesn't want to focus because I'm trying to do too many things. So let's do this one at a time. You can see where it's got the old George Lefton crown mark, which is 50s era, and then down here is the red paper label that we see starting at some point, I believe, in the late 60s. So this is going to be a transition piece for them. Washstands and bowls were based on forms that were very popular, of course, in the early 1900s. And here you go, now it's focused in. So these two pieces were sold together as a set new, and they are together as a set now. They have the painting on the back. This was actually a fairly sophisticated line for Lefton at the time. Lefton, ooh, hello. Okay, there we go. I wasn't sure what to say. Anyhow, so Lefton had really done a lot of transferware and really sort of cheap knockoffs of other Japanese makers' work, and in the late 60s they really stepped up their game, and the quality got a lot better. And I see Paula is in at 12. Thank you, Paula. I do think this is a very pretty set, and Lefton has become very popular with collectors, especially recently, and especially here on YouTube. It seems like a lot of people understand and appreciate the work. It was sold very, very widely in the American market. It was very popular, and I think they did a smart thing. They started as sort of cheap knockoffs of other Japanese companies' ware, and then they made their ware better and better, and pretty soon they dominated the market, I would say. I think more stuff came from them than all of the other imported Japanese ware of the time. This piece is meant to sit like so, so we'll put it the way it would appear, and then it's generally displayed like this. Now, some people choose to break them apart, and some people actually will use this as table service. It's perfectly fine to do that because it's not painted inside, so there's no lead paint or anything that's going to be bad for you on this. It's just a very pretty piece. The gilded handle is nice. They used actual 22 karat gold leaf to do the handles. And as I am fond of telling people, that doesn't mean that it's worth $1 million because it's gold, even though it's real, because it's suspended in a very thin layer of paint. 22 parrots. Well, 22 parrots, well, that would be interesting as well. I don't think any parrots were harmed in the making of this piece, however. So, a very pretty set, and it looks like it's going to go to Paula for $12, unless anyone else is out there interested. But this is very smart, Paula, because you can combine shipping on all of this. We'll try to pack all these things for you in a nice box where we can get them safely to you for one price.
Now, what would that be used for?
Well, these originally were larger than this. This would have originally been, they're scaling down a washstand bowl and pitcher, and that would have been like a 4 or 5 gallon pitcher in a big bowl that you would use to pour water in and wash your face back before people had indoor plumbing. These were done as nostalgia items about 60 years after that because they realized that people who had grown up with that sort of thing were nostalgic for it, and so they sold them as a decorative item, but then in reality a lot of people ended up using them as table service, so they would actually
the size threw me off.
Right, exactly, but they would actually use this as a cream pitcher perhaps and put it on the table like this. So other people use them as vases, and so Paula will get to use it however she likes. And thank you, Paula. We will get that out to you, and we'll be back with a few more things to go. And we're back. I think we've got 3 or 4 more items to go, and this is one of them here. I'm going to show you the box it's in first. Speaking of Harvest Gold, a bunch of you were talking about that. Remember that everything does come around again. This box may be Harvest Gold, but this actually is from the 1930s. Now, the box itself is not terribly exceptional, and it's got some aging on it, but the reason for the box is this was a presentation piece. Oh, a Rambler Rebel. Wow, how great. I love that car. I never saw one with orange shag, though. But here is what's in this box. This is actually Japanese from the 1930s, and these were sold as gifts in presentation boxes. This is when the custom in Japan is to bring a gift to your host or hostess when you go to visit, and so things in nice boxes became a way of doing that. You buy a gift that was already in a box and present it to them. Well, then they started exporting them to the United States in the 1930s, and it caught on here for a while. So the whole purpose of the box, which nowadays is kind of a bonus, you basically get a nice box to use, but it was to hold this piece here. Now this one is a 1950s piece because, as I was just explaining, the ink stamp says Japan rather than made in Japan. So this is 1950s transferware with hand-painted embellishments. So the florals are a decal, but all of this Harvest Gold color here is painted in. And this is kind of a holdover from 1930s colors and designs. The Japanese, of course, were trying to originally, after the war, just start up where they left off, and so a lot of things that were made in the 30s became what they made in the early 50s.
Let's call it goldenrod.
Goldenrod, okay, sure. That might be a more modern...
Sounds a little better.
Well, I think actually that is what they're calling it in the decorating magazines right now, is goldenrod, so that's appropriate enough. So here is this little piece. It's a tri-part relish, basically to put different candies or different sauces or different vegetables in on the table. And I just think these are cute. I think it's a clever idea. When I was a kid and went to a thrift store and started being aware of what they were selling in the thrift store for the first time, rather than just thinking it was an annoying place that Mom wanted to take us, this is one of the first things I noticed because I thought it was such a strange concept of having a box with a plate in it. But that is how it was made, and you notice that the painted detail on the box matches the painted detail on the inside rim of the piece. So these are something that I find kind of interesting. If you do too, $12 is the starting price, and we'd be glad to send that to be with you.
The plate comes out of there, right?
Oh yes. Yes, it lifts right out.
What's on the bottom? Oh, I see. Did you already show that? I missed it.
I did, but that's okay, because we can show it again, because I know that we have a little bit of a lag still, so this gives people a chance to see it. I'll try to be a little more slow and deliberate, and Karen Rogers likes this. Well, hi, Karen. I didn't know you were out there. It's good to see you, and I'm glad that you are enjoying this piece. I think it's cool, too. If you turn it this way, it sort of turns into a peace sign, I guess. So depends on how you display it. But I think it's pretty neat. And I think in the interest of being at this late hour, I'm going to say that if anyone else is interested, now's your chance, because otherwise this is going to go be with Karen.
What's on the bottom of the box?
The bottom of the box is just the bottom of a box. And it's nothing special. I don't really know what this mark here is. It seems to be from the factory, actually.
There's a red mark, right?
Yes. Yes, the back of the piece has the red Japanese mark and the number 5, and it says hand-painted Japan. The maker name is this little M in the middle of what looks like a heart on the back. I do not know who that is. It might be Meito, China. Oh, thank you, Paula. I'm glad that you had fun, and wow, you are getting up early. Well, you have a good night's rest, and thank you so much. I'll send an invoice out. Do I ship overseas? Yes, I can. I use the eBay International Shipping, and because I'm here in Kentucky, where for this is actually not a difficult place to ship from.
Well, you're not going to eBay with this.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, well, I'm getting rummy, aren't I? Yes, that's right. No, we're just sending on our own. So, but no, I definitely can ship internationally. I've done that before for people. So don't let that stand in your way. If you like something and it's worth it to you to have it shipped, then we will do that. Carrie has this at 13 currently, and I don't know if Karen or Kay or anyone else is interested in this. Lynn at $15. All right. Well, very good. I'm glad you're seeing what I saw in this piece. I thought it was really neat. This came from an estate in Florida, so these really were found all over the country, although that gal was originally from Tennessee, so I'm not sure where she got it, to tell you the truth. I'm just going to change hands because after a while I'm not a natural hand model and my hands are getting tired. So let's see. We'll hold it up so you can see the box one more time. Lynn is currently our high bidder at 15. Karen is at 16. It is a really cool piece. I'm glad you're appreciating this. I think that people see the boxes, which I think are neat, but they don't really necessarily understand that there's something inside beyond the box. So it's a cool thing. I could see that, hey, Susan, it's nice to see you. We are having some fun playing some music and selling some stuff, and you came at a good time because I think we've got 3 more rounds of sales after this. So Karen is currently the high bidder. If someone else wants to give her a run for her money, well, now is the time, because otherwise we're getting close to ringing that bell and ending this bid and moving on to the a little bit more of our music lounge and a few more items to sell as well. So we'll give everybody one more moment here. Turn this so you can see the edge here. It's even got detail on the inside of the relish separators, which I think is interesting that they went to that much detail. And a lot of handwork done. Is the box wooden? Yes, it is. Let me set the tray down. I say wooden. I actually think, honestly, it's not wooden. I think it's paper mache, to be truthful with you. It's very hard. It's possible that it's a light wood. Let me hand a piece to Zeno and see if he can tell me what he thinks about it. It's not heavy, whatever it is. And it could be that the top and bottom are different, but I'm pretty sure that it's a heavy stock paper mache that is done with some sort of a glaze. Is that what you think?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be wood.
Okay, yeah, that's my feeling as well. So the bid is now at 18. I'll put it back up so you can see what you're getting. It is the box with the contents, which are, the content is the tripart relish tray.
Yeah, Brie, if it's bamboo, Brie, it's covered in something and then finished with a lacquer of some kind.
Yeah, it has some sort of lacquer, yes. You can see on the back where it's gone kind of yellow and they had a little overspill that went really dark. I don't think they were so worried about how it looked on the bottom. They were more concerned about how it looked from the top. Does the box look like this? It's hand painted or a decal? Well, that's a legitimate question. Let me look at it a little bit more. The part that looks painted to me is in this textured area here. This is raised, and that definitely makes me think that it's paper mache, because this is raised, and then the portion in the middle, what it appears to be is transferware in the middle, and then the little blue dots are all hand painted, and the red is hand painted. And I think that the gold is also hand painted to match, because the gold is painted in the same manner that the glazing is done on the inside of the bowl. We're at $20 on this piece right now. So you can see where the design matches. So it's a combination of transferware with hand painting embellishments, which is something we see a lot in 1930s and 1950s Japanese ware, because the Japanese were rebuilding from the war in the 50s, and so they had labor, lots of people able to do this sort of handwork. In the 30s, it was the Depression, so they had lots of people able to do this handwork. Karen is at 21. So basically, on the piece itself, the flowers, the rose spray, that is a transfer decal. And then the hand painting is done on the gold design inside the rim. And the green on top of the Relish separators also is hand painted and on the rim. And then on the box, the hand painting is limited to the blue dots in the flowers and then this gold with the red spots. So I think that's what you have. It's always interesting when it's a combination of things because it can be a little bit of a fooler to the eye. You have to spend a little time with it. And it meant it was a multi-part process too. It would have been much cheaper and easier if they had just done transferware, but they wanted to do a little better product. Again, because these were presentation pieces and this was something nice you were supposed to take to a home. Oh, Trina gets in at 22. Well, I'm glad I brought this to show you. I thought it was an unusual piece and I thought somebody would enjoy this, and it seems like you are, so that's great. Let me hold up the other piece again that you will get. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put this piece back in it so that you can see it's a very nice fit. They're very precise about these things. There's not a whole lot of room for it to rattle around, just enough to make it easy to get in and out of the box. And 26, well, Karen is serious about this one, I think. Boy, I see now why those gals on The Price is Right who hold up this stuff, they earn their money because you got to have good forearm strength. Trina is in at 27. And it's certainly making it easier to not be distracted by the lag that I'm covering my face with this stuff, so maybe that's a good thing. So we are at $27 on the tripart Japanese Relish from the 1950s with the original presentation box. We'll give a moment longer for anyone else because I know we've had a number of people interested in this. If you're still in, let us know because we want to give everyone a chance. Karen in at 30. It is a nice piece. I have to say I don't run into these very often. When I was a kid, I saw them a little bit more because we lived in Bremerton, Washington, which was a Navy town, and a lot of people brought this sort of thing over from Japan with them. Trina at 31. But I don't see these very often out in the wild anymore. And I'm glad to be doing this in a live sale because it's a little hard to describe this. It's not exactly a thing that you can list online and have people necessarily know how to find it and what they're even looking for because I'm sure the Japanese have some sort of a name for this. I don't know what that name is, and I've never heard anyone call them a particular anything in the United States other than relish dish.
Do you see them but just not with the box?
You see them without the box a lot more than you see them with the box, yes. Because people lost the box or they didn't realize. Here's what happens in estate sales. Here is a relish tray, and we put a price on it at the estate sale. And then over in some other room or under the counter, because they haven't put it back in the box in a long time, oh, here's a box, and we put a price on it. And one person buys this, and someone else buys this, and away they go, separated, never to be together again. So it's nice to find them when they are together like this. And I see Karen is in there, and $27. And yes, Colleen, you're right. Actually, this this holding up the stuff is definitely.
Oh, come on!
It's probably good for me. I'm
good
sure
exercise.
It's good exercise. If this is If this is a problem, then it means I need to be doing this more often.
Isometric hold.
That's right. Exactly. That's how Jack LaLanne ended up living to be 90, is by doing stuff like, well, I guess he wasn't exactly modeling stuff on a show, but he did lots of isometrics, and they really worked for him. $33. My mom met Jack LaLanne, actually, and said he was a really great guy and that he was very, very short. And no, you really don't see these with the box very often. It is something very different. And KS, where are you? I got the feeling from your question that you might be abroad, and I'm just always curious to know where people are viewing from. Karen at $40. And there is a little bit of detail on the outside of the box as well, you can see. The little roses. Well, I'm really glad that you're enjoying this and that you see the specialness that I did in this. So it's, I have to say, Trina at 41, I have to say this is the sort of thing that it just makes me happy, and to be able to bring something that people don't see very often to something like this. But Colleen is right. I am going to set one of them down for a minute.
KS is in the Netherlands.
Oh, very good. That is a place I would love to go see. I've only been to Europe once, and I ended up going to Poland, of all things, and it was a wonderful experience, but it definitely whetted my appetite for more of Europe. It's interesting, I've been watching some television from the Netherlands, and I knew from studying German in high school that there was involvement between the Germanic languages, that the Dutch have their own language, but that there's elements of German and English in it. I was surprised how much English is spoken as part of regular speech in the Netherlands. I could understand about half of it without really having to look at a subtitle, and I found that very fascinating.
Karen Rogers is out.
Okay. Well, I think this is going to be Trina's then, unless someone else says something. We're going to end this, and we will let Trina have it. And it's a very nice piece, and I'm glad that I was able to tantalize you with this. And since you folks seem to be interested in these, I will look for more and see if I can find any. But I think we're pretty close to ringing the bell and ending this auction. If anyone else is in, let us know. Otherwise, I think we're just about done with this, and we've got a couple more things to show you after. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Trina, and thank you all very much, by the way, for your bidding and your involvement and just being here with us late at night like this. It's a lot of fun for us, and we are enjoying getting to do stuff like this on the live channel. So let's have a little more music, and then we'll see you with a few more things. All right, well, we are down to our last 3 rounds, and this next one's going to be a choice. And I think it'll be an easy choice. They're all birds, they're all red, but that's all they have in common with each other. The choice is between the ornament, which is Closet A, or the 2 wooden pieces, which are basically Scandinavian folk art. And the Scandinavian folk art pieces, which I'm going to, and these are all going to start at the same price, and the high bidder will get their choice of one or both. One meaning the 2 together is one price, and then the ornament is another price. And these are starting at just $5. They are strictly decorative items, but I think they're neat. I'm going to talk about the Scandinavian ones first because they are older. They came from an estate in Seattle. Seattle has a lot of Scandinavian influence because a lot of Swedes and Norwegians migrated to Seattle around the 1890s and 1900. A lot of them were involved in the dairying industry and other things that were big there at that time, and also in lumbering. And so you see a lot of folk art. You see Dala horses and old Swedish chests that came over with people. And so a lot of there was an area in town called Ballard that became a place where a lot of people migrated to the city if they were from that part of the world. And so there's still to this day a fairly big Scandinavian influence and a big Scandinavian museum there. And there were a lot of gift stores that sold things like this in the 1960s, which is when these date from. They are wooden, they're hand painted, they're cut out. I believe that they are Swedish as opposed to Norwegian. We see things from Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark.
I believe my Norwegian friends, I think they call that rose mauling.
Rose mauling, yes, that's right. That form of painting, very good. That is absolutely what it's called. It's like toll painting that we see in the United States, and you see they've done it all the way around on the tails as well. So I thought those were kind of cute and sweet as a decorative object. And then the other piece is this little bird here. Now, this bird does not have as much age. This bird is fairly contemporary. It came from an estate. I just thought it was nicely done, and I thought since we could sell it inexpensively that we would put this up so that you could see. It is Closet A because it does have, as Closet A always does, the brass wires with the enameling going in between to give it the color. Enameling is basically paint in a glass suspension. This is kind of neat because the bird has a bird on it. 2 birds, in fact. So you basically have the bird with its wings and feathers, and then on the underside you have these tree branches with more birds in them. So I think it's just really cute. It might be a nice thing for the tree. I don't think it has a lot of age. It might date to the 1990s at the earliest. It could even be in the 20-year-old range because of where I got it. But the bid will be for the choice of the bird ornament or the pieces with the rose mauling, or both if you like them. So one price for the 2, and or the same price for the ornament. If we have anyone else interested, let us know. Otherwise, we will let this go to Carrie, and we will move on to other things because I've still got a little bit of jewelry, and then the final piece I'm going to show you is a nice old piece of pattern glass, and we're starting that at about a quarter of what it just sold for on eBay in the last few days. So here we've got the birds, and it looks to me like we have a winner. And Carrie, if you'll let us know which of these is appealing to you, or all of them if you like, the choice is yours for $5. And you can let us know in the chat, and we can get back to a little more music here. Thanks for staying up late with us, and we've got a little bit more to go still. All right, we are down to our penultimate, second to the last. I love that word. I don't completely understand where it came from, but it works for me. This is going to be choice of these items. So one price, the high bidder will get their choice of one or all of these pieces of jewelry at that price per item. And they are all very different, and I kind of did that on purpose because I figured it might appeal to different tastes. So the chow on the left, aha, I knew our Latin expert would know that if I said that. That's great. The piece on the left here, the chow, is hand-carved of wood. We see a lot of hand-carved wooden pins in the 1940s and 50s particularly, and then again in the 1970s, but we see them in the 40s a lot because during the war, a lot of the metal and rhinestones were not available. And so they did things out of wood, and it became a popular style. We see it again in the 70s a little bit because that's part of that hippie ethos. It was something people could make on their own. And so we see some wooden jewelry from that time. I am not sure which one the chow is from. The centerpiece is not a signed piece of jewelry, but it's sure constructed well like it should be. That one's easy to take off the card. The other ones I have pinned in, but I'm going to take this off and show you a little bit up close. This one is a Capri blue color. This was a very popular color in the mid to late 1960s. You see it in tableware, you see it in jewelry. It's a very bright, happy color. If you have blue eyes, it really brings them out. If you don't have blue eyes, you don't need them because you can wear this for your blue. And it's that something old, something blue, so if you're getting married, you can kill two birds with one stone. Speaking of stones, this seems to have all of its rhinestones except one little one I notice in the clasp is missing. And Kathleen, you are our current high bidder at 22. I will put it up to my neck so that you can see that it is a choker size, but it actually would fit around my neck with my big old Adam's apple, which is nice. You can also get spacers for these things at a jewelry store if you need a little bit of extra length. So this, I think, is just a very pretty piece. And Kathleen is currently the high bidder in its choice of these. And then I'm going to put the whole setup again so that you can see that the third choice is the Russian painted floral pin. And this one is on this side. That's all hand painted. It's very similar to the Russian lacquer boxes. It is lacquered wood. The hand painting is all done underneath. I'm going to try to hold the necklace down so I can turn this and maybe get it to where you can see it without such a glare. I think maybe that shows it a little bit better. So all of the hand painting is done by brush strokes, and it's just very pretty. This one does not have a town name on it. I don't see that so much on the jewelry. That's usually more reserved for the boxes where they would put the name of the town on. But this is the choice between these three items.
You could probably lean forward and get it a little closer.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's helpful so that you can see. It's got really nice faceting, this center stone on the blue piece. Well, actually, mainly what you see is that I need to clean the dust off of my jewelry card, so maybe we'll come back. Yes, I had not noticed that. So, oh, you got a close-up of my bad housekeeping. But it is it's a contrast between fun jewelry, traditional jewelry, and something kind of elegant for stepping out. And we have Kathleen at $22, and I don't see any other bidders coming in, so I think Kathleen is going to get her choice of these. If anyone else is interested, please let us know ASAP, because otherwise we will go ahead and close this out. When you hear that bell ring, that will be the end of this round, and we will have one more item that I will enjoy showing you.
Are they clips or pins?
They are pins. They are brooches. They both have pin backs, and they are pinned onto the card. That's why I'm not taking them off to show. They both have the chow has a safety clasp, which is the little hook that hooks in, the little round part that make sure that it won't fall off. And the Russian pins, they slot into a little holder in a way that they're pretty good. They don't seem to fall off either. There we go. I finally got it where you can see all three pieces simultaneously.
The dog is wood, obviously.
The dog is carved wood, yes.
Okay.
So Kathleen, I think you are going to get to choose. There is that bell. And so let us know which one or ones of these are the ones that we should send to you. And for all of you who have gotten something, please do send me an email at the address you see down below, and I will get these ready to pack and send to you.
And we have one more item coming up, correct?
Yes, that's right. Okay, Kathleen wants the Russian floral brooch. And I will make a note of that. Kathleen, for $22, that is yours. And we'll get that sent out. Thank you so much. It's a very nice piece. The hand painting is really well done. And
We'll be back in just a moment.
that's right. And then we'll have our last item for the evening or morning as it is, depending where you are. Well, I just want to thank all of you for being with us and for enjoying this evening along and morning along with us, depending where you are. I have one item left to show you, and it is this item here. It is a sweet little toothpick holder. If any of you follow the Niche Lady, oh, sorry, Carrie, I should answer your question first. Détente was in the early 1970s when we finally started cooling down the Cold War with the Soviets. We started having more relations with them. We started having cultural exchanges. The relationship got a little less contentious, and we started to trade merchandise. And so that's when we start seeing the lacquer pieces come over to the United States like that. Before that, the Kolklona ware and the little boxes and things made with the lacquer in Russia and painted were just not available here because they just did not send us product. It just was not done. So that is what Détente was. And it all had to do with when President Nixon went to China to negotiate with them. It was basically so that he could create a three-way dialogue between the US, China, and Russia and kind of play them off of each other, which was, there you go, Irish Girls got it down. Perfect. That's a very good explanation. Thank you. Now, this little piece that we have for sale, it's our last one. I should take my fingers out of it because it's making it look purple, but it is actually cobalt blue. In fact, let me get out of the shot entirely so you can see the true color, because my face is going to make it seem purple. Okay, so that is the color it really is, because it's going to look more purple in this shot than it really is. So it's actually blue. Let me see. Here we go. There's a good idea. Thank you. We'll put this in behind it, and I think you'll see the color a little more truly. It may be my lighting doing it too, because it really is more of a cobalt blue than a purple shade. So I just want you to know that. But this is a pattern called Colorado. You can tell by those gold feet on the bottom. There were a whole bunch of patterns named after states that were done in the 1890s by the U.S. Glass Corporation, which eventually became Tiffin Glass. For those of you who collect modernist glass, they made a lot of really great stuff. But in the old days, this is what they made. And this particular pattern is the Colorado pattern with this particular foot on it, and this one is gilded. One of these just sold for $45 on eBay recently, and I was rather surprised by that because, as cool as it is, I hadn't seen them go that high before. So I think there's starting to be more interest in early American pressed glass, as they call this. It's pressed like Depression glass, but it's heavier because they couldn't press it as thinly as they did in the Depression era. This would have been a toothpick holder. You can see the foot here.
So the foot is glass?
All of it is glass. It's one piece of glass, all molded at the same time. It's molded, and then they would fire it, and they would anneal it, which is where they put it in the lair to cool down the temperature. And when they put it in the lair, in the old days, they would use straw. So when you're seeing a few little lines on it that look like they might be cracks, they're not cracks. That one by my finger there, that is called a straw mark. It's just on the outside of the glass in that place only. And that is a typical manufacturing flaw with these. So it is in perfect condition. And then they would paint the gilding on using gold leaf and then fire it at a low temperature, maybe 150 or 200 degrees, to get that to adhere. So that would wash off if you scrubbed it too hard or if you used it in Windex. So yes, Susan, that's right. The bottom is painted. So I can lift it up so you can see that. See how the gold's only on one side? That is actually gold paint, and gold paint around the rim for the beading. And Kathleen, I see you are interested in it at $10. I think it's a wonderful little piece. And of all the state patterns, Geneva's at 11. Of all the state patterns, this is my personal favorite. There's just something about, I think it's because I was more of an Art Deco person when I first started in the collecting. And even though this is 1890s, it's got just a little bit of a deco feel on it. Because of this geometry. And so that always appealed to me. And I thought the colors were good. They did Colorado actually did do a purple. This is a blue. It's a true blue. It's not as purple as it looks on the screen there. The purple they did was like grape purple, so it would be darker than this. They also did it in green, and they did a lot of different people. They did a lot of different pieces in this line. They did spooners and celery vases and tableware of all sorts, pitchers and beverage sets. I don't know them to have ever done plates or anything like that in it, but I think anything that was an accessory piece, you could get this pattern. And it is at $16. It's a wonderful little piece. You see these sometimes with etched names and dates on them from fairs and such, because when these patterns started to go out of favor in the 1915-20 period, when they start to make thinner glass and start moving towards depression glass, well, then they sold a lot of these to, even as early as 1905 and 1910, you see these dates on them because they sold these to be sold as prizes at fairs and that sort of thing, or as souvenirs. Should have given it to Yvonne. Yes, I thought about that actually, since she's in Colorado, but I have a little smiley face thing that I need to send to her. That's going to be her gift. Very nice lady. I really enjoyed meeting her in person. I'm looking forward to seeing her again at some point when I'm headed out west by car. So Kathleen is our top bidder at $16. If anyone else is interested, let us know. This is our last piece of the evening. You can see the pattern on the bottom here when you look through the top. They really, for a small piece, they put a lot of design into this. You can see from the bottom too, so that when you looked from different angles, you would get all of this design through it, because the Victorians liked fancy. Interestingly enough, I'm noticing that, and it is a heavier glass, yes, that's true. This is probably, if this was a depression glass piece, it would weigh probably 50% less than this piece does, because by the depression, they figured out how to make thinner patterns. And you notice this is clear here. In the depression, a lot of the low-end depression glass has pattern that covers all of the glass because they're stamping it out. It gets bubbles in it, it gets little flaws in it, and by having an all-over pattern, you conceal all of that so people don't see the flaws. Well, the pattern glass makers were a little bit more quality focused, and the glass was thicker, so the quality of the glass was more of the appeal, and so these are indeed heavier pieces.
You mean it's translucent?
It is translucent.
Not clear. It's all colored.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. It is all colored. This is not flashed. That's a good point, because they did do this pattern in clear with a red flash on it, and the reason they did that is at this time in history, to make red glass, you had to use 24 karat gold in the batch, and it was expensive and people didn't want to pay for it. So you could only get red if it was fired on as a color, just like the gold is fired on at a low temperature. So the red would be flashed on at a low temperature. It wasn't until the 1930s with the Royal Ruby line by Anchor Hawking that they figured out how to make production glass without having, in the ruby color, without having to put the gold in. So Kathleen, it is yours, and we thank you very, very much. And please send your information. Anybody who bid on anything and got it tonight, we will be happy to get these packed up and get invoices out right away to you. But we also are just so grateful that you came and had fun with us. Even if you weren't here to shop, that's just perfectly fine. We just love to be able to have later chat and let you hang out together and hang out with us and get to talk about all these cool things that we really enjoy and the things that you enjoy and what's happening in your lives. It's a great little community. Please do check me out at theantiquenomad.com. That's the main channel. Let me answer this question. Not like Goofus
It's your website,
Glass.
Not the channel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the Antique Nomad is the main channel. The Antique Nomad Live is this channel, and theantiquenomad.com is my website where you can find out about things like appraisal services. You can also go to the community tab on the at the main channel and find out where I'm coming to do appearances. I'll be in Allegan, Michigan doing a show next weekend. Getting back to this question about not like Goofus glass. Actually, Goofus glass is a pattern pressed glass that has also colors fired on. So the gold and the red is fired on to the bottom of the Goofus glass. That's why it's hard to find in good shape, because it's all over the bottom and it was really easy to scratch or make that wear out. People would use ammonia cleansers or something harsh and abrasive and it would take it right off. Or they'd leave it in the sun and it would start to fade because it wasn't in the glass, it was on the glass. So this particular piece that we just showed, the only part, I'll hold it up again, the only part of Kathleen's toothpick holder that the color is not in the glass is this gold that's applied. On Goofus glass, all of the color is applied. You will sometimes find pieces of Goofus glass that are completely clear because all of the color has been taken off or worn off over time. So that is the reason that Goofus glass, a lot of people don't like it because they've never seen it in good condition, because it's hard to find in good condition. It's actually something that can be very lovely if it's in good condition, but that's just not easy to have happen. So anyway, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. I hope you enjoyed the music. I hope you enjoyed your evening with us and early morning with us. I'm tired. I think it's time to go to bed. It's certainly past time to go to bed in the part of the country I'm in. Those of you in other parts of the country or the world, well, you might just be getting rolling. But in any event, it was so good to have you with us. Thank you very much for enjoying this with us, and we will do this again sometime soon. I've got shows next weekend, so it'll if you subscribe to this and you click that bell to be notified, then we will let you know when we're able to do stuff like this again. And thank you. I'm glad you subbed. That's great. And we will look forward to more experiences like this. The live channel is going to be a lot of fun because we will get to do things that are sort of spontaneous in nature, or gee, we have an evening free and we've got stuff and we can present it like this. So it's a nice adjunct to our regular channel. We will be on the regular channel with our regular premiere tomorrow night at 8. Monday and Wednesday are our typical premiere nights. I'm sort of on a pseudo vacation and wasn't sure we were going to get one done, but we did, so we will look forward to seeing you there. And I don't know if there's anything else to say. Zeno, do you have anything to wrap up? 8 p.m. Eastern. Yes, that's right. I forget sometimes. We've got to put it in terms where everybody can figure out. So 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday and Wednesday. And with that, I guess that's it. And we'll just wrap it up here. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye now.